Hi, Internet. I'm Eileen Shuman of Shuman Shuman PC, a divorce firm that's based in Atlanta, Georgia. Here's my disclaimer: I am not your attorney unless you've paid my fees and signed a contract. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. If you're interested in scheduling an intake with my office, you can go to my website and you can click the link that says schedule conference. Please don't rely on the internet for legal advice, especially when you are dealing with family matters. So, today is a very special episode because we have my mom, Mona Shuman. Mona is the other Shuman in Shuman and Shuman PC. My mom is a founding member of the law firm, and she practiced family law and divorce in Georgia for over 40 years. She's now retired, but she's never more than a phone call away. She's here as our very special guest to talk about the court system, how it's evolved, how divorce has evolved in the United States. We'll talk about the law, history, and what she had seen change firsthand over her career. So, let's talk about it. From the beginning, what was it like for women trying to get a divorce when you started practicing in the 1980s?
Well, first of all, the court system was overwhelmingly male. Male judges, male lawyers, male lawmakers. Women could get a divorce, but it was often with a stigma or suspicion. There were still traces of the old system where a woman had to prove something like cruelty or abandonment, or even qualified for a divorce in some states. Georgia had already adopted no fault divorce, but the courtroom culture had not caught up.
Right. And that's a key point. Even when the law changes on paper, the attitudes and practices inside the courtrooms can take much longer to evolve.
Exactly. I remember having to prep my female clients not just legally, but emotionally for what they'd face. Judges would question them differently. Financial independence for women wasn't assumed. Women were mostly financially dependent on their husbands, having foregone careers to have children and stay home while their husbands went to work and built businesses.
And that still happens, maybe not as bluntly, but the gender dynamics are far from gone. So let's take a step back. And divorce law historically comes out of the idea that marriage is a contract. And for most of American history, it was a contract that was controlled by men. Women couldn't own property, they couldn't enter contracts, they couldn't even vote. In many places, a married woman's legal identity was not independent of her husband and was absorbed into her husband's, which is coverture, and I've talked about in other videos.
Right, and under coverture, a woman couldn't sue or be sued, couldn't make decisions about her children, and certainly couldn't easily walk into the courtroom and say, I want a divorce now.
So, for centuries, women had almost no legal access to get out of a bad marriage. But then what we start to see is reforms: property acts in the 1800s, suffrage in the 1920s, and eventually in the 20th century, states start passing laws that will help women have more rights in marriage and divorce. But the change is slow.
Yes, and even by the 1980s and 1990s, I'd go into a hearing where opposing counsel would refer to my client as the wife and not by her name, or they talk about her needing money from her husband as if she was had no legitimate role in building the family or contributing financially. And some of these courthouses I was in did not even have women's bathrooms on all the floors.
That's so crazy. So, in your career, what were some of the biggest shifts that you witnessed?
No fault divorce becoming more accepted was a big one. Then the idea that both parents could share custody. That was radical at first. In the early years, women usually got custody, period. Then came a push for fathers' rights, and now we try to talk about what's in the child's best interest. But it's still evolving. Also, women entering the legal profession changed the energy. More female judges, more women attorneys, that changed how cases were heard and argued. And of course, changes in social norms, like the idea that a woman could simply ask for a divorce because she wanted a different life. That was huge.
It's not even that long ago, but it still is kind of controversial. And it's so wild how people still will see divorce as a personal failure or moral flaw.
Yes, and that's why access matters. The court system doesn't recognize women as full, independent human beings with the right to leave a marriage. We are failing families.
Right. If the court doesn't recognize that, I agree. We are failing families. And the law is part of that puzzle. Representation matters, respect matters, and accessibility matters.
And we still have work to do.
We do. But thanks to women like you who kept showing up, arguing hard, and opening the door for other women and mentoring other women, we've made so much progress.
Thank you, and I'm so proud of you, my daughter, for following in my career and bringing new rights forward for women.
Okay, y'all, that's all for today. It is a weird world out there, so stay safe.